Hey everyone, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Justin, and well, I want to start by thanking you for all the support in my last video. Of course, anytime you make content about the Toronto Maple Leafs after they get eliminated in yet another final game of round one, it's going to draw attention, it's going to get views, but lots of new subscribers, lots of likes, lots of great comments and feedback, people wishing me well wishes. I'm clearly not 100% still in quarantine, but thank you for all of that. And obviously the trolls were back at it, but like I said, lots of great dialogue and people telling their opinions about the team, about the series, how everybody feels. Now, the one thing I will say is I did get lots of feedback about how I said that the Toronto Maple Leafs were the better team throughout the series, and I just want to say that's my opinion, and you don't have to share that opinion, and if you don't, that's great, and you're more than welcome to obviously have your own opinion as well. I would just hope that I don't get judged and ragged on for saying that I personally believe that the Leafs had a great series. Now, obviously, my perspective comes from a different place. I've been watching this team for a number of years come out and play terrible hockey in the first round. This year was not the case, and I genuinely did think that for the most part, the Leafs did outplay Tampa Bay. That doesn't mean anything to take away from Tampa Bay. It doesn't mean that Tampa Bay didn't deserve the series. It doesn't mean that just because Tampa Bay won the series means that they're automatically the better team. I just thought that the Leafs, for the most part, did outperform Tampa for the certain things that I was looking for in the series. I think the Leafs executed for the most part. But again, that's just my opinion. You're more than welcome to have your own. Now, in the last couple days, ever since the loss, it's been a nice time to just reflect on the season, the series, the final game. Like I said in that video, this year's perspective is completely different from years past. And years past, I've been extremely frustrated. Lots of rash decisions going through my mind on what can we change, what needs to be done. This year, the team played very well in a very competitive series and lost by 1 goal to the Stanley Cup champion, 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. So for me, it's mostly just disappointment right now that I can't watch the Leafs anymore. I really wish that there was a game on tonight that I could cheer on my team. And unfortunately, I don't have that until October. So that's what I'm feeling right now. But I am starting to have a growing frustration over one thing, and that is that the Leafs only scored 1 goal in that final game against Tampa Bay in Game 7, because that's something that I don't know how long on this channel I've been preaching that is the number one issue that's been plaguing the Leafs over a number of series now. And I said it in my preview before Game 7. When we were going into Game 7, I made a video about the Leafs going to get another Game 7. And I said that while the conversation is always around defense and goaltending for the Leafs, I still see the biggest issue for this team being scoring when it matters most. And yet again, we only had 1 goal. Where did that goal come from? Morgan Rielly, a defenseman. So no forwards were able to contribute a goal in the final game. And to me, that is a massive issue that has plagued this Leafs team for years and years. But yet again, it comes around to bite them in the butt when we need them most in Game 7 against Tampa Bay. And I don't even blame the big guys for that. Obviously, in my reaction video after they lost Game 7, I was saying you're spending 4 players, 50% of your cap on 4 forward players. You need them to be able to contribute, but those guys did contribute heavily throughout this series. For me, when I look at Game 7s, I mean, I love watching playoffs hockey. I watch all the teams. For the most part, whenever I'm watching a Game 7, the big storyline is this depth contributor that has a fantastic game that saves the team, and they just come up clutch when they need them most. It's the depth pieces, right? And we saw that in this very game. The trade deadline big acquisition for the Tampa Bay Lightning was Nick Paul, other than Hagel, of course, but Nick Paul, and he steps up with 2 goals. They're only 2 goals. It's not like Kucherov scored and obviously Point got injured, but it's not like Point scored, Stamkos scored. It was Nick Paul. And when I watched the earlier game between Carolina and Boston, it was Max Domi. Now, Max Domi is a great player, but I wouldn't call him one of the top players on Carolina. I'd consider that to be like Aho, Teravainen, Svechnikov. It wasn't any of those guys. It was a depth guy in Domi. Think of the other big heroic performances we've seen in the past at a Game 7s. We've seen it against the Leafs with Jake DeBrusk on the Bruins. We've seen it with Mr. Game 7, Justin Williams, on any team that he's been on. It's the depth players. It's that important third line to be able to score. And what did the Leafs have? Well, throughout the entire series, they struggled to get depth scoring. I thought David Kampf actually did a great job in this series. He only had, one or two goals all year last year on Chicago, and he put up multiple goals in this series. So he's off the hook. But where is the likes of Engwell? Where's the likes of Mikheyev? Mikheyev is supposed to be this big piece that was supposed to take this huge step forwards, but only had 2 goals in this series, both empty netters in the same game. Not all too significant. Obviously, we needed those goals in the game, but you need more from those kind of contributors. And same thing with the fourth line. And if I had one piece of feedback for Sheldon Keefe in this series, this might sound crazy, but I think Jason Spezza was way underperformed, because to me, that is the kind of player that steps up in the darkest moments when you need a depth player the most, the person that's going to give the most heart. You saw him talking to multiple players on the bench when they needed a step. He was there to do it emotionally with coaching and leadership, but he's also the kind of player that can definitely step up and score you a goal when you need it most. Now, that sounds ridiculous out of a 38-year-old that's on the fourth line, but it's true. I mean, we've seen it in the past in playoffs. He scored in final games for the Leafs. He scored crucial times at moments that we needed a goal. He's even stepped up and gotten fights, which is not his role at all, but he knows how to perform in clutch games, and I don't think we played him enough in Game 7. I think you play that guy more, and I know he was on the ice on the 6-on-5, but you play that guy more, and you just might be able to get a miracle goal out of him. But honestly, if you look at the bottom 6, you just didn't get the contributions that most other teams get when it gets to the grind in the final game of a series. And that's where I see Kyle Dubas needs to be focusing his effort for this year. Last year in the offseason, the Leafs did a terrific job of getting players to support the core, much better players to round out this team with the likes of Bunting. Obviously, McCabe and Engvall were already there, but they definitely took a step forward in their development. David Kampf as an acquisition. You bring back Simmons, Spezza, Clifford. They're guys that definitely rounded out the team, but mostly in the regular season, and they didn't step up in the postseason. You need to find those guys that can really make a contribution, especially on the goal scoring front, provide you depth scoring in the playoffs, and the Leafs just don't have that right now. And I wish I had said it in my videos in the past, because I have been thinking this recently, but I don't think I said it on camera, that when I look at the third line and I see Mikheyev and Engvall, that does not compare to me to a Stanley Cup champion third line, because I just don't see the offensive threat that line performs. And the struggle for me, and where do you go next, is that those two guys are so important to the Leafs, more so for their defensive ability. I mean, you think of the Leafs penalty killing, especially throughout the regular season, and even their scoring on penalty killing. Mikheyev and Engvall were two of the biggest factors in that. So I know Mikheyev is on an expiring deal. Engvall's likely to come back. Do you bring back Mikheyev? Do you get rid of Engvall? Those are two really big wildcard players that I think you need to get an upgrade on. But do you go after someone that's more depth scoring in a third line role, but is not suited for the penalty kill? It obviously impacts your ability to kill penalties in the regular season. It obviously affects your ability to penalty kill in the playoffs. Just where do you go with it? It's a very difficult conversation to have with management, with the coaching staff right now, because there isn't a definitive answer on what is the right path forward for this Leafs team. Again, do you take away the defensive-minded players for more offensive players that it hurts you on the defensive end, or do you maintain those two players and just continue to hope that they develop and get a goal-scoring touch? Mikheyev blew out this year with a massive increase in goals. So did Engvall. I mean, they've shown that they can do it, but I just don't see them as players that are able to do it when it matters most. And that was the difference in this game, and that's going to continue to be the difference. If the Leafs continue to go to final games in a series, you need depth scoring, and I don't think they have the players to give it to them. Other than that, though, I'm still feeling the same way I did after we lost. I'm very proud of this group. I'm really happy with the way they played. I was watching their post-season interviews, their exit interviews, and the one thing that I did notice as a commonality between most of them was that everybody was saying they feel like they have definitively another level to get to. And I do think that was targeted because the big guys, they stepped up. They met that new level that they weren't at last year. it was the depth guys, it was the role players that I think that really didn't step up. And I'm hoping that the team does acknowledge that it wasn't just Game 7 that lost them the series. It was a couple of poor performances and big mistakes in earlier games that at the end of the day, it killed them, especially in, let's say, Game 6, where you've got the opportunity with Tampa on thin ice in the third period with a lead, and you go out and get 2 penalties, you blow the lead, and then in overtime, you get lots of chances, but at the end of the day, it wasn't enough. Or Game 4, when you just come out flat-footed, and it wasn't even close from the first minute when Tampa scored, and you just let them get away with it after, 2 goals in the back of your net, and you just give up. This team needs to learn that that's not acceptable, and they really need to learn that it takes 7 full games, full 60 minutes to get this win, not just Game 7. You can't let it come down to Game 7 every year. You got to be able to pull out better performances earlier on. So that's where my head's at right now. I'll make more videos moving forward about specifics, where I want this team to go, because it's going to take a lot of thought on my end to figure out exactly what's next for this team. But I'll make some videos, some content on that, maybe even do a live stream. I've never done one on this channel, but maybe do that with an armchair GM, or even just a chat with you guys, get your opinions and talk about what's next for this team. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thank you for all the support, and I'll see you in the next video.